Hello there, my name is Valerie White Williams, and today I am talking about Mercury in the houses. So if you followed me before, you know that I am all about the house positions, because the house positions are like the blueprint of your life. And where those planetary aspects show up is where you are supposed to show up in those houses. It's kind of like the game Clue or a movie set or a play. Some action is on the sports field. Some of it is going to be in the dungeon. Some of it is going to be building a house or teaching. That's the power of the house position. So we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about Mercury. Now, let's start with this planet of Mercury. Mercury is, based on mythology. And the planet Mercury is basically the mental mind and how you communicate, how your mind thinks, how you communicate. That's going to be what I call the ice cream flavors or the potato chip flavors. That would be the signs like Gemini, which is me. I'm super Gemini. Or Cancer. So, your Mercury, say in Cancer, is going to be a bit more emotionally driven. Your mind and your communication style is always thinking about, that Cancer energy, that taking action to create safety, things like that. So we're going to go through all the positions, and I'm going to try and give you guys some examples on how you can understand your chart. So of course, we're going to start with the first house. So the first house is the house of your personal identity. And a lot of times where people have planets in the first house, it doesn't come easy with them because everything is so exposed. Everything in that first house is right there to be seen. And so when you have Mercury in the first house, you're probably that person that is going to just blurt out, speak out, or think. You're always thinking, and you can't really control it. It just, there it is. It's gonna show up for you. And so if you do have Mercury in that first house, you probably are looked at as being somewhat of maybe not an intellectual, but really sharp-witted, I would say. Because again, it determines the sign. So say it's Mercury in Pisces, well, that's going to be a little bit more of an introverted focus and being more focused on a totality. And so they might feel like, this is really awkward. I want to feel something. I'm feeling it. So it's almost like this mental feeling, but it's still going to come out. It's going to come out. And people might go, well, that's kind of weird. That's Pisces. But, because Pisces sees this totality versus Gemini. And Gemini is super nerdy, they're super analytical, they're super quick-witted. And so that Gemini might come across in that first house as like blurting things out. I know the answer. Like the person is like, they're gonna blurt something before it's maybe appropriate, maybe interrupting. So that's kind of how the Mercury shows up. And again, people that have the planets in the first house, it takes them a while to kind of go, okay, this is who I am. I can't help it. Because everything shows up in the first house. So the communication style, how you are going to think is going to show up no matter what. You can't hide it. Can't not speak it. That is Mercury in the first house. So now we're going to go into Mercury in the second house. And so Mercury in the second house is focused on building an industry, building a home, building security, structure, because the second house is about the physical reality, your structure, not so much your body. That's in the sixth house. We'll get to that later, but building your personal foundation of who you are, what you're going to do. So second house Mercury is that your mind thinks about making money, making a home, like building a home, building a business, making a financial plan. And again, we talk about it. So people that have Mercury in the second house probably really enjoy talking about the stock market, building, creating a business that's going to stand for the test of time. And so their mind is thinking about how I can make more money, and not in a frantic way, but in a solid way. So let's say Mercury in Taurus, which is super grounded, that person is probably really got solid plans. Taurus is fixed energy. It's really at home in the second house, and they can really build. They could build an empire. They could build a huge industry because their mind enjoys thinking about strategy on how to build an income, how to build a business, how to build a home. And so that's where they're thinking, things along that nature. And again, it depends on the sign. So say Leo, you might be into luxury building, see? So that's kind of what I talk about as potato chip flavors, is that Leo, Mercury in Leo, will want to have something a bit showy or something luxurious that they can, it's luxury and a bit of like glam, because that's Leo. And so again, that's fixed fire and just feeling this kind of luxury, you know, somewhere that feels really exotic or solid, and you can feel good because they want to love what they're doing. Okay, so now we're going to move into the third house. Now the first quadrant is really personal in nature. So it's kind of about the identity. So we start with the beginning of just like, this is just me, the structure of what we're building. And now we're coming to the third house. And the third house is your identity and your ideas and your style. So Mercury in the third house is very verbal, I'll say, because the third house is about communication and mental. So we're talking about how you communicate, but how you think. So people that have Mercury in the third house are probably really good writers. They're really good speakers. They really understand how to communicate their thoughts in a very great way because they enjoy it. Because that's the thing, is Mercury likes to circulate. Mercury is one of those like really kind of flighty energies. And again, as you look at the mythology, you'll see that. And so Mercury in the third house has the gift of gab. It has the gift of communicating. They might be writers, they might be public speakers, and it comes easy to them because Mercury is also really at home in that third house because it likes to circulate. Again, it determines about the signs. So let's say Aries. So Mercury in Aries, that person is going to like drop bombs, right? So they're going to think about, okay, I need to talk about this and I don't care who it offends. I'm just going to say it. And so again, that's the communication style of Aries, because Aries takes action. They don't think first, they go. And so that person is just going to say what they think and let the bombs drop, right? Okay, so now we're going to talk about, say, Mercury in Virgo. Virgo is a little bit more cautious. So Virgo is not going to be like the Aries. Virgo is going to think first. They're going to make a plan. They're going to plan an outline, and then they're going to deliver what they think needs to be told. Because Virgo energy likes to fix things and clean things up. So in that third house, someone who had Virgo in Mercury is going to be structured. They're still going to communicate it, but their style is going to be a bit more structured and planned out in advance, contrasting to that Aries. But it's still in the third house. They're still talking about what they think they need to communicate, and they have something to say, and they are thinking about what I want to say. Okay, so now we're going to go into the fourth house. So we're crossing the line to the more, personal, but relating to other people. The fourth house is considered the home, the safe haven. So the fourth house represents where you grew up, how safe you felt as a child, and also how you want to live your life as an adult, because you want to feel that comfortable place. So Mercury in the fourth house really seems to be where there's a lot of debate, a lot of communication growing up. People were talking about things. They might talk about politics. They might be talking about, all kinds of things, maybe debating each other, really kind of getting into it, but not in a bad way, but just people were talking, reading newspapers, reading, things like that. You came from a family that was maybe a bit more intellectual, or at least like to banter ideas around, because that's what Mercury is. It likes to think and it likes to communicate. So again, it depends on the sign in the house. Let's find one we haven't done. Aquarius. Okay, so we'll say, what if the house is in Aquarius? The Mercury is in Aquarius. So Aquarius is a little bit reserved, meaning it's fixed air and it's a little bit removed. And so it could be people were into politics, but they were thinking about, you know, more lofty ideas, communicating these ideas as a family. You might do volunteer work because you think that it's, you know, something that you should do as a family to help the poor. Gonna go to, you know, to help humanity, because Aquarians are all about that. And then let's talk about another sign. We'll talk about Scorpio. Okay, so totally different than Aquarius, so that's fixed water. So if you have your Mercury in Scorpio, it could be that your family life was really about kind of diving into secrets and things that maybe were a little bit not the norm, but your family just loved digging into it. They like to watch movies about ghosts or maybe psychic phenomena. Maybe you're going to study things, and that was something your family did. And likewise, where you grew up is what you also like. So if you have that Mercury in that house, you're probably liking to have maybe dinner parties where people can talk and you have, you know, are feeling comfortable in your home, but you like to kind of debate or have discussion groups in your home. So you can work your mind and everybody can discuss things, because that's what Mercury loves to do, is communicate and think. All right, so now we're going to go into the 5th house. And the 5th house is the house of joy and creativity. We also talk about it's like sports and music and creativity and having children. It's really the affairs of the heart. So Mercury in that house could be you're always thinking about getting some great dates. Like you want to date somebody and you're thinking of ways that I can find that person, or you're thinking of ways where you can actually enjoy doing a lot of creative work. And so that could also be doing some writing, poetry, songwriting, doing music, because you're thinking and using your mental mind. Now, here's the deal. That is the house of creativity, but we use our mind to create art. We use our mind to do sports, especially team sports, because you have to it's not always in the body, it's the body and the mind. And so that learning to use that. So you could be that sport coach that is helping people get dialed in. But I think, to be honest, it's really about having fun, because that's what the 5th house is about. Fun, having fun activities, and children. You know, children is also, so in the 5th house that's part of children as well. Children are there. I know it's kind of a random mix of things, but with Mercury there, you're going to make a game plan. You're going to make a plan, and you're going to think about how you can create these activities and the plan of that. So I'm not going to talk about the different signs in this, but basically with Mercury in the 5th house, you are going to use your mind in a higher degree to create activities that are fun or inspiring to you. And you love it because it's fun. You're going to have fun. Okay, so now we're going to go into the 6th house. And the 6th house is the house that kind of corresponds to Virgo. It's about your day-to-day life routine, your health, your nutrition, your physicality, how you take care of your body. So Mercury in the 6th house means that you're really focused on creating structure to help you have a physical great life. And you are really comfortable with that, because Mercury is also relates to Virgo as well. I know it's kind of strange, but you basically like to organize and you like to talk about it. So you might be a fitness coach and you might help people organize your home, and you're going to use the structure of your mind to help them, or just help yourself, because you like to organize. And some of the signs might be more organized than others. So let's say Pisces, for example. With Pisces, they will be organized and like to use their mind to organize, but they might need to find a creative way to do it. So they might have a creative sense of organizing or a creative sense of their diet, and maybe they might explore things that are more maybe new agey and things like that, but it works for them, and they can use their mind to consider all these alternative diets and then choose one that works for them, that they intuitively feel. But they're still thinking about it. And then let's talk about say Capricorn. Say Capricorn. Mercury in Capricorn is a little bit more serious. They want to get business done. They want to take action to create a structure that's going to work. And so with Mercury in the 6th house, they're the ones that's going to make all these plans. They're going to have like an agenda. They're going to create an agenda to create their life so they can stay organized, they can get fit, they can make a fitness plan. They love to think about structure so they can actually create that structure and then work the plan. And that is Mercury in the 6th house. So now I'm going to go into the 7th house. And so the 7th house is the house of the partnership. And the partnership is considered the marriage house, but it also refers to people that you work with in partnership. You could be like business partners. You could actually, for me, I've had a lot of teachers that are one-on-one. So when you work one-on-one with a person, you're also getting that kind of partnership because we're getting this thing going on. It's not like classroom learning. And so with Mercury in the 7th house, you are definitely attracted to people that like to communicate and have an intellectual side to them. And so you love to communicate. Now the thing about the 7th house is the 7th house is the people that you're attracted to, but the people, and I mean that as in all levels, but basically you think you don't have it, so you're attracted to people that are going to pull that out of you. They're going to pull that out of you. And so you're attracted to people that are very verbal. They have a lot to say. They're very communicative. And you're attracted to that because that's going to draw you into them. And so that's how that give and take happens, is that the people that is in the 7th house is going to draw you to them. And so you might be shy, but that's why you're attracted to people that will draw you out and communicate in that house. So you like to talk. You like to talk, and those people will draw you out to talk to. And again, the signs are all different. So we're going to talk about the sign of Aquarius again. So Aquarius is a little bit more reserved, and they like to think of high ideals. So Aquarius likes to talk about humanity's goals. So they're a bit more removed about that. So they love to talk about those things versus, say, Cancer. Mercury in Cancer, they want to talk about feelings. They want to talk about real things to them, their emotions. So they're going to draw out the community aspect with Mercury being really clear about, let's talk about this. Let's not run from this. We're going to talk about this. And they're going to bring you in to communicating and their thinking style. And of course, Mercury in Cancer does think about, the past, and, really is driven by the emotional expression. All right, so now we're going to go into the 8th house, and the 8th house is what I call like the spooky house of mysteries and things that are hidden, the occult, death, sex, death and rebirth, all that stuff, all that juicy stuff in there. And so if you have Mercury there, you're probably a big researcher in all those things. Now, you could be that person that's trying to get a lot of dates and find women, and you're gonna learn how to attract women, like some of these coaches, like how to get women to come to you. So that could be one part of somebody who has Mercury in the 8th house, but it could be somebody who really is diving deep into what we consider the mysteries, the secret things that are hidden. Conspiracy theories. I hate to use that term, but mysteries that are unknown, like Loch Ness Monster, or UFOs, or all kinds of things. So you might just be a huge researcher, and you just love to think about them, and you love to communicate with other people about those things that are usually not discussed in public life. And so you just have a fascination for that, and it's okay because you love it. Those 8th house people, they're doing important work. Okay, so now I'm going to go into the 9th house. And the 9th house is the house of higher education in philosophy and religion and travel. And I'll be honest, I have my Gemini Mercury in the 9th house. So I'm a super language nerd. I love to study languages. I love world culture. I love to teach and think. And so that is the house of the teacher. So a lot of teachers will actually love to be there because you're bringing that Mercury energy to share with others and to explore. Now, if you're not a teacher, you probably love to read. You probably love to read books, or you love to travel. And you may be like me, where you love to learn languages and see if you can travel and speak the languages and understand the culture, because you just really enjoy world culture, and the more the merrier. And you love to teach and help others. So it's really a sign of a teacher as well, because the teachers have that mental capacity to think about and then share it and communicate it. So it's a great place for teachers to have Mercury in the 9th house. And again, it depends on the sign. So if you have, say, Taurus in the 9th house, you might be like a PE teacher, because that Taurus has that physicality, but you're teaching others and using your mental mind to give them the structure so they can succeed in sports or activities like that. So that's what we're talking about, the flavors. So now we're going to go into the 10th house. And the 10th house is the legacy house. A lot of people call it the career house, but I don't really like that, because I don't think that's as inclusive, because not everybody has a career. Some people don't work, but they still have a legacy. They still share their legacy. So Mercury in the 10th house means that you really need to use your mind to focus on helping others, because that's what the legacy is. Now, when I'm saying helping others, I'm not saying like, oh, you're a garbage collector, or you're taking care of kids, but you need to use your mind and your intellect with what you're going to do. So that could be a lot of things. You could be a lawyer, you could be a teacher, you could be somebody who's a public speaker that inspires others. So there's a lot of ways that you are going to bring that communication style and your thinking style to make an effect that's affecting others and bringing a legacy. So let's just talk about a couple. We'll talk about Libra. I haven't talked about Libra. So Libra is the social bug of the zodiac. Libra loves to make relationships. So for Libra in the 10th house, you may be a diplomat. You're using your mind, because Libras love to be diplomatic and balance things. And they also love to reach out to others. They're very social. So you would be a perfect diplomat, or maybe in sales. You might use sales to actually engage with the other, and then you use your mind to communicate with them what you're selling. So you use that mind. It's almost like a fishing pole that you can use to help others. And of course, in sales, it's not about buy my stuff. It's in real sales, we're talking about products and services that can help this company or this person. So it's not really the way we think about sales, but actually giving them an opportunity to use your mind to let them have a better process in the business world. All right, and so now we're going to go into the 11th house. And the 11th house is the house of the greater community. So it's kind of across from the 5th house, which is the house of joy and having fun. But in the 11th house is more about the totality of that fun. And so the people that have Mercury in the 11th house have a higher vision of what they need to do, because they care about humanity, they care about the world. So they really are kind of usually involved in some way to help the planet. And so their mind is focused. So they may be people that actually create foundations, or they do maybe create events that meet on a topic for the community. Now, when we talk about a community, we can talk about your local community. Like maybe you are founding a food bank, or you're creating a nonprofit that brings arts to kids. You know, so you're using your mind to create a structure that's going to be beyond you, that's going to help others in a greater capacity, but in a community. It's helping the community of the world, or just your community in your own town. So giving that energy to that greater purpose. So that's what 11th house is. There's like this greater purpose for them. And they may work needlessly. Even sometimes they won't even take credit for showing up all day, every day, to help others with their pet project. And again, they might be the person that creates it, creates that foundation, creates that business, nonprofit, and they're using their mental mind to create that. Okay, so now we're going to go to the 12th house, and the 12th house is going back to the 1. So people who have Mercury in the 12th house, it's kind of an interesting placement, because what happens with Mercury in the 12th house is they feel and think everything. So sometimes their thoughts, they feel everybody's thoughts. So sometimes they feel or see these energy, but it can be kind of diffused. So sometimes people that have Mercury in the 12th house, it can be really hard for them to figure out, is this what I think, or is this what other people think? Because the Mercury is in this diffused place. And sometimes it can be hard for them to really feel like, I don't know what I'm thinking sometimes, especially when they're with a lot of people. So people that have Mercury in the 12th house like to spend a lot of time alone. That's probably a for sure thing, because when they're alone, they can be alone with their thoughts, and then they can think clearly. When they're in a group of people and there's all this stuff going on, sometimes they can be swayed by others because they're so open. They're so open. And so Mercury in that 12th house, there's a gift, and then it's a hardship, because the gift is that they're psychic. They're naturally psychic. And with those psychic abilities, they don't quite understand which is mine and which is yours. That's why they like to be alone. But once they get a handle on that, so everybody that has planets in the 12th house needs to get some, I would say, some psychic training to understand what's going on, because it can be a really difficult placement, because you can't really, I think, especially for Mercury, because Mercury is so intellectual, but the 12th house is very diffused. And so they like to be alone, they like to read, they like to be in nature, but they need to learn how to develop kind of being aware of what's mine and what's not mine. And that's a journey that they have to take, and they have to know. And so yeah, my husband who passed away, he had that placement, and it was a little hard on him, because it was hard for him to see what's going on, because there's so much going on. And so they like to be alone. So, but you have Mercury there, you just have to kind of develop a meditation practice. You need to develop some skills and get some training so you can understand what your thoughts are and what other people's thoughts, because that psychic ability can help keep them from being confused. I don't want to say they're going crazy. I don't want to say that, but that could be a possibility if you don't get the structure of understanding what is yours and what is not yours. All right, so that is Mercury in the houses. Yeah, woo. So thank you for letting me teach you this, and yeah, we're gonna keep going. And then hope you let me know how this works, if this resonated with you. I'd love to hear it in the comments. And also I want to let you know of my 2 free passion projects on Facebook. There is Creative Soul Alignment, and that's for people that are interested in creativity and spirituality. And I also have a group on YouTube on how to be successful on YouTube. And again, I forgot to say it, if you like this content, make sure you subscribe and click on the bell so you get notified of all of my astrology talks. All right, take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye.